Hi, welcome back to the channel, J.O. Wood Artistries. My name is Jordan Ledger, and ironically we're using ledger boards to hold up the shelves. How is it possible that my ancestors were named after shelf components? They must have been shelf builders. And now years later, the task has been passed down to me to build a set of shelves in a closet. I guess you can't deny what's in your blood. So, anywho, I'd like to go over a couple of tips with you that I learned in the making of this project. And number one is that while walls are very rarely plumb, true, and square to one another, especially in closets. And so when you're trying to build shelves, it can be aggravating dealing with uneven walls and multiple measurements for the same shelf. How do we get around this? Well, in this video and for this project, I built a 3-sided cabinet, 2 sides and a back. And making sure that that was true, square, and plumb was an easy way to build shelves within it. And then to put it into place, I use shims and screw it directly into the studs of the walls. And maybe it's going to be a little bit more money and materials and maybe a little bit more time, but if you're having to recut shelves or spend a bunch of time trying to scribe them to uneven walls, well, then maybe it's not extra time and money. Maybe it's just more convenient. And for me, it was more convenient in this case. It just made sense to make this cabinet. So if you stick around and watch the video, you'll see how I did it. Very simple, very easy to do. Tip number 2, use a buttload of caulk. I mean, if your shelves are off by an inch and you've got an inch gap, I don't recommend using caulk to fill that, but within reason, if they're like maybe 1/8 of an inch or something along those lines, then use some caulk to fill in that gap. And I recommend using it on all your seams and joints. It'll give you a much more finished look and professional, and that's what we aim for. I recognize that these are shelves that are going in a closet, but you know, if we can fine tune our skills a little bit, then it'll benefit us for future projects. Thanks for watching. I appreciate the support, and until I catch you on the next one, please take care and stay safe. Goodbye. Oh, and please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.
After removing everything from the closet, as well as the assemble it yourself cabinet, I had a blank slate to work with. The first thing I did was to create level lines across the 3 walls every 16 inches. This is where the tops of the ledger boards will meet. I like to add the marks right onto the wall as it helps to give me a visual reference of what this project is going to look like, and that way any fine-tuning can be done before I begin the project. Here I'm cutting down a sheet of construction-grade plywood to create the 3 upper shelves. This isn't necessarily the best choice of plywood for an interior project, but we can fix that up later with some spackling compound. Next, I begin ripping the ledger boards down to their final height on the table saw. I went with a height of 1 3/4 inches. That way the ledger boards had a consistent size between the 3 walls. The ledger boards will be attached to the wall and will create a ledge for the shelves to sit onto. And now I'm using a spackling compound to clean up the plywood. It goes on easy and helps to fill in the dings and dents and unsightly knots. And now I'm cutting a new sheet of plywood to create a cabinet that will house the 2 lower shelves. sides of the cabinet consist of 3/4 inch plywood, and the back was a sheet of 1/4 inch plywood. And all the parts get 3 coats of semi-gloss white interior paint. Now I'm marking the stud locations. You'll notice I'm using a piece of masking tape to stick to the wall in the location of the stud, and then I'll mark the masking tape with the stud location. Once the shelves are installed, then I can remove the masking tape. And here I'm assembling the cabinet with glue and screws. The back just butts up against the sides. I pre-drilled holes and then screwed the unit together. And I'm not using any fancy joinery here. I'm just butting the back of the plywood against the side walls of the cabinet and holding everything together with pre-drilled holes, screws, and glue. I use brad nails to hold the ledger boards up level against the wall, and then I pre-drill to avoid the ledgers from splitting and screw them directly into the studs behind them. And even though the walls are marked with the locations for the ledger boards, I still use a level throughout to double check my work and make sure everything is installed properly. And now I move on to the face frame. This will hide all the unsightly edges of the plywood and will create a finished look to the built-in project. I first rip them down to size on the table saw, then apply 3 coats of paint, and finally attach them with wood glue and 1-inch pin nails. I went over the entire piece, all of the corners and edges with caulk to finish this piece off. And here's a final look at the completed project. This is an easy way to build shelves that you can customize to fit any space that you're dealing with, and the possibilities for design and organization are endless. If you like this project, give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you can be alerted every time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching, I do appreciate it, and until I catch you on the next one, please take care and stay safe. Goodbye.
I don't know if you can see all this dust, but sanding off this compound really makes a dusty shop. Freckles, you need lung protection. I've told you this. Quit being stubborn. Get your lung protection. A cat. Don't be like Freckles.